Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. When I started exposing the climate scam 15 years ago, it used to require a little bit of work. But recently, the people pushing the climate scam have gotten so ridiculous, I have the opposite problem. It's very easy to expose what they're doing, but the volume is so large I just can't keep up. Last week, the United Nations announced the era of global boiling. Professor Stephen Rahmstorf tweeted this: "You like taking a hot bath? That would typically have a temperature of around 38 C. The ocean in the Florida Keys has reached a shocking 38.4 degrees Celsius." The Guardian reported, "Florida ocean records unprecedented temperatures similar to a hot tub." It's a great global boiling story, except for the fact that it isn't true. The Florida state climatologist pointed out that it was not an ocean temperature and that temperatures at that location frequently get that hot or hotter. 6 years ago, the water temperatures there in Everglades National Park reached 102 degrees Fahrenheit. The reading was taken in a very shallow lagoon near the outlet of water draining out of the Everglades swamp. Water temperatures in Manatee Bay would be better described as being pond temperatures than temperatures in the ocean. Sea surface temperatures off the coast of Florida are about 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the claims made by Professor Rahmstorf. Now let's look at this story. The impact of global boiling. Shocking before and after photos reveal just how much of the Greenland ice sheet melted. Here's their before picture, and here's their after picture. You can see that some snow melted on the southwest coast of Greenland. Let's take a look at what's actually going on in Greenland. The vast majority of the island has gained an excess amount of ice over the past year. The southwest coast did lose ice relative to the 1981 to 2010 average. But 1 year ago, that same region gained a large excess of ice. For 5 of the last 7 years, including this year, the surface of the Greenland ice sheet has gained more ice than the 1981 to 2010 average. In 1911, the New York Times reported that the southwest coast of Greenland reached 94 degrees at midsummer, which was much warmer than any temperatures recorded this year. And the New York Times blamed the sinking of the Titanic on the very warm summer of 1911, followed by a very warm winter, which led to a large excess of icebergs. 1911 also brought the worst heat wave in New England's history. It brought a heat wave to France, which killed more than 40,000 people, and it brought temperatures of 100 degrees to London. 1911 would have been more aptly described as global boiling than this year. So let's take a look at 1911 on Michael Mann's wildly fraudulent hockey stick. He shows the global boiling of 1911 as being one of the coldest years of the last millennium. Now let's look at another popular climate scam story. Weather Prof says, "Having temperatures of 99 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of southern hemisphere winter is extraordinary," said Raul Cordero, a climatologist at the University of Santiago. Reuters says, "Winter heatwave in Chile offers window to warmer world." This is another great story with no substance. The northern end of Chile is in the tropics and doesn't actually have a winter. But other locations outside of the tropics frequently get 100-degree temperatures during winter. Texas has reported 100-degree temperatures during winter on numerous occasions, with the hottest being 104 degrees Fahrenheit in 1902. It's impressive that Reuters was able to make a projection of temperatures in the future based on a single meaningless temperature in 2023. The reason northern Chile is having a heat wave is because the unusually cold air around Antarctica has been bottled up there and hasn't been moving north. There's lots and lots of material out there to work with, but in this video I'm just going to cover one more global boiling story. The Washington Post says, "With a fast burst of sea level rise, New Orleans' outer defenses are drowning. Sea levels along the U.S. Gulf Coast are rising much faster than predicted." The Washington Post says this has something to do with dire climate change. But the real story is that the land in the Gulf Coast of the United States is sinking. The two main causes of this are pumping fluids out of the ground, and over the past century we've built lots of levees to prevent flooding, but they also keep silt from replenishing the coastline. What's going on is the land is sinking rather than sea level rising. But the Washington Post says sea levels along the U.S. Gulf Coast are rising much faster than predicted. And as is normally the case, what the Washington Post is saying is the exact opposite of reality. Sea levels in Louisiana have actually been rising a lot slower than what experts predicted 20 years ago. Actual sea level rise in Grand Isle, Louisiana has been lower than NOAA's lowest sea level rise projection. The projections failed so badly that the Biden administration erased them and pushed the start date of their projections out by 20 years. And when these projections fail, they'll just push them out another 20 years in the future. Barack Obama doesn't seem to be too worried about sea level rise because he has recently purchased $30 million worth of mansions on the beach in Massachusetts and Hawaii. I'm going to throw in one more global boiling story from the Korea Herald. Summer heat is becoming increasingly deadly in many parts of the world. But the death rates from all types of natural disasters, including meteorological and climate events, has plummeted 95% over the last century. The record heat wave of 1921 brought millions of people in Eastern Europe, Russia, and Asia to the brink of starvation. And the New York Times reported that 2 million Koreans were starving owing to the drought-ruined crops in 1921. It might be a good idea for journalists at the Korea Herald to learn something about their own history. The New York Times reported a worldwide heat wave of unusual length and intensity. 1921 was the hottest year on record in many U.S. states, including Texas. The heat of 1921 was associated with one of the largest solar storms on record, which occurred in the middle of May. During that solar storm, the aurora was plainly visible in Austin, Texas. The New York Times said it was a worldwide heat wave of unusual length and intensity. But according to Michael Mann's hockey stick, 1921 was one of the coldest years of the last 1,000. Michael Mann's hockey stick is complete garbage, but lots of academics go along with it because it brings large amounts of research grant money into their institutions. Toto's been pulling back the curtain on the climate scam since August 2008. You can visit him, Kyrie, Caesar, Toki, Upla, and the 4 new puppies on the web at realclimatescience.com.